Good morning, all you lovely and loving beings. And do you know you are a beloved?
Yes.
Do you know you're loved unconditionally?
Yes.
We do, at moments. Do we know it and remember it at every moment? If you do, will you teach me? Because yes, we know it, but we lose track of it. And in losing track of how beloved we are and how unconditionally loved we are, we separate ourselves from our magnificence. We separate ourselves from our power, and we separate ourselves from each other. All not probably the way we would choose to be. That would be my guess. And just to re-emphasize who and what we are, I want to read two things, very short. This is a book called The Spontaneous Healing of Belief, Shattering the Paradigm of False Limits. That's a pretty big, strong title, wouldn't you say? This is by Gregg Braden, but I will tell you, he delivers. He delivers on that title. But let me just read what he says, tells us, right at the very beginning. In the instant of our first breath, we are infused with the single greatest force in the universe. The power to translate the possibilities of our minds into the reality of our world. To fully awaken our power, however, requires a subtle change in the way we think of ourselves in life, a shift in belief. In a malleable world where everything from atoms to cells is changing to match our beliefs, we're limited only by the way we think of ourselves in that world. And one of the fundamental strengths of tapping into that power is to feel loved and abandon ourselves to love. Abandon our safeguards, our little protections, give ourselves up, make ourselves vulnerable. That could be a little scary. And for many of us, we have moments when it is scary. And why is that? It all comes back, and I know I've talked on this theme many times, but it true, and not just me, many people, and I've written about it, including this entire book about it, it all comes back to where our beliefs are. What do we truly believe? Now, we hear some beautiful sayings about love. And my premise today is that love is all that we need. Love is the power. It fuels the power of everything else. Ernest Holmes, and I've referred to this book before. This is a book I got in our bookstore. It's called Love and Law. It wasn't written by Ernest Holmes, but it is a compilation of his talks and lessons. And I think I also told you before in the foreword of the person who did the compilation that this was a straightforward and easy read. And I'll tell you again, no, it's not. It is challenging, but it is worth the effort. It is absolutely worth the effort. And I continue to read this book, which I've been doing for months and months on end. And it will be included in my class, which you'll hear a little bit more about later. But this is what Ernest Holmes said, because sometimes people felt that Ernest spoke and emphasized the law rather than the love. And in this case, he's talking about universal law. But he believed that, and I quote, "Love points the way, and the law makes the thing possible. You will find your word has the amount of power, the amount of intelligence you put into it, and it has a creative power according to the amount of absolute conviction and the impulse of love, which is behind it." That's a pretty strong statement. And when he talks about your word, he is talking about your belief and what you speak in to your life, what you speak in to your environment, how you think and how you project. Now, would we all agree we live in a vibrational world? Vibration dictates what happens. Just like that tiny little flutter of a breeze on the coast of Africa can travel across the Atlantic, and living in Key West, we know what happens when that happens, and it gains force over the warm water. We know the hurricane potential of that little vibration. And there is scientific evidence to that effect. Well, when we project love or feel love, think about when you have been in love. What do you feel like? You feel like you're tingling, that you sometimes can't breathe because of the awesomeness of it, because of the beauty of it, because of the vibrational power of it. And everybody around you feels it. I have a very clear picture of one of my really, really good friends. We were meeting her for dinner one night, my husband and I, and she was running a little late. And I'm not going to say her first name because many of you in here might know her, but I'll just call her Susie. Well, when she showed up and she was running up to the table, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm late." She was absolutely glowing. Her vibration preceded her. It's like we turned and looked towards the entrance, even before we fully saw her, because we felt her vibration. We felt her energy. And Terry looks at me and he said, "Susie, she's in love, or at least in serious like." And she was absolutely glowing. We know how it feels for ourselves. Have you had that moment in your life when you are consumed by love? You are consumed in love. You don't just feel love. You are in love. And here's my definition of that distinction. Loving is a fabulous way to be and feel. Being in love is a fabulous way to be. Do you hear the difference? When you are, and you can feel love and be in love with life and be in that state. Sometimes we can love, but we don't feel and like we are in love. We are not being in a state of love. And again, why? Well, let's look at that. Do you think you're worthy of having a life of living in love? And I think initially we would like to say, yeah. But do we have moments when we think, when something happens, and it's like, well, I don't know why that happened, but I guess it's the good stuff's just not meant to be today. Do we say things like that? It's just not meant to be. Do we say, well, I guess I didn't try hard enough. I guess I'm just not on it today. And I'm being kind with some of the things I'm saying right now. My guess is we say a whole lot more painful things to ourselves. We say things like, well, I just can't ever get it right, rather than I just didn't get it right today. We say those kind of things to ourselves. And what kind of vibration do you think that sets in motion? It sets in motion the kind of vibration, or that vibration sets in motion the things we don't want. It attracts into our lives the things we don't want. And those kind of vibrations come from worry, not just from beating ourselves up, but from worry. Do we worry about something that hasn't happened yet? Do we worry about the future? Do we worry about how things are going to go tomorrow? Or how they're going to go even tonight? Or do we worry 6 months down the road? Do we worry about a child, one of our children? Do we worry about a sister or a brother? Or a partner or a spouse? Do we worry how they're going to react to us if we do something or if we say something? Do we keep things from those people we love because we are worried? That is one of those vibrations. Fear. I had someone not too long ago say, well, I never feel fear. And I said, well, do you ever get concerned or worried? And they said, yes. Well, that's what worry and concern are. They are forms of fear. But we also have feelings that we clearly identify as fear. And deep inside of us, many of us go through a time period in our lives where we fear we're not good enough, or where we fear what we really want, the life we're looking for, is never going to happen. But yet, listen to what I just read from these powerful teachers. From the moment we were born, we were imbued with the power to do exactly that. If we can get our minds and hearts truly around that belief, will we have any reason to fear? If nothing can go wrong that you can't fix with your thoughts and your beliefs, and when I say thoughts, I'm using them interchangeably with beliefs. They actually are two separate things. Your thoughts lead to your beliefs. A belief is simply a thought that you keep having over and over and over till you just accept it. You accept it as true. But we are willing to accept certain things as true, like it takes hard work to succeed. How many of us believe that? Most of us, if we're honest. We were taught that work ethic, right? How many of us are ready to accept that? Life is hard sometimes. Life is hard sometimes. If we're gentle, we say sometimes. I've heard a lot of people say, life is really hard. And I want to turn around and say, and why do you think your life is hard? Because you believe it's hard. And when you believe that, you generate it. As Braden so profoundly put, our beliefs generate. We have that power to move the molecules of the world. Now, I'm a very big student of quantum physics. Okay, take a deep breath. We're not going to get deep into quantum physics here today. One day I'm going to teach a class on that. One day, not today. And not in my class on May 13th. But in quantum physics, they cite a number of experiments where simply the beliefs of the observer change the outcome of the experiment. And maybe some of you are familiar with the really famous experiment of water, where there is water put in 3 clear containers. And they put labels with words on the different containers. They put one with love and joy and light and happy. Those were the words. They put one with sad, fear, depression, dark, on another container. And on the 3rd container, they didn't put any words. What do you think happened? On the container with the words with love, the water turned into beautiful crystals. And rainbow crystals could be seen in the water. And you can look this up. You can Google this. I'm trying to think the exact name of it. It will come to me. But if you just Google the famous water experiment with words, you will find it. Guess what happened in the container with the negative words, with the anger and the sadness? It turned all kinds of dark, ugly, swirly, ugly stuff. In the one with nothing, it remained clear. It remained in its apparent natural state because it was waiting for the vibration and it was waiting for the observation. Its vibration remained as it was in its natural state. So words and vibrations have the power. And guess who controls those vibrations in your life? Me. You got it. So guess who makes that in charge? You in your life, me in mine. Now, and when we accept this, guess what? We can't blame anyone else for anything. Nothing. Zero. Because it's either true, and we believe it, or it's not. There's no half-truth here. You don't get to play it both ways. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Because in understanding that comes the astounding ability to tap into that power by engaging love. By engaging love. When we do that, we change the vibration of everything in our arena. Everything that comes in contact with us. Everything. And we can manifest any experience we want, bar none. There are no limitations. The only limitations will be those that you put on you. And I was teaching a prosperity class one time, I don't know, quite a few years ago. And I recall very vividly, one of our sessions was, okay, you come up with with a wish. It wasn't more, I didn't use the term wish, it was a clear desire. What it is from a prosperity standpoint. And this was to be focused on prosperity. And people said all kinds of lovely things that they would like. And they shared it with the group because we were going to do a sort of mastermind process of taking each person's desire and focusing on it for them without comment of good or bad or comment about them, just totally focusing on it like you do in a mastermind group. I know a number of you have been in mastermind groups and you know what that process is. And people said things like, well, I would like to be comfortable and have the ability to be generous, lovely sentiment. I would like to be debt-free. I would like to be able to help people. I'd like to be able to give to my most important causes. Lovely thing to say. Nobody said, and finally I called everybody on it. I said, so no one in this room wants to be wealthy? They were very uncomfortable believing that they had the right to want wealth. Why? You are a beloved child of God. God will pour out all of the gorgeousness and benefits, and your cup will runneth over if you accept. But if you don't have the vibrational desire for wealth, if you don't have the vibrational energy, and even the ability to love the idea of being wealthy, it can't happen. Your vibration is keeping it away. And how many of us would have the same reticence to express that what we want is unlimited wealth and complete and total financial freedom? My guess, most of us would at least admit to the second, somewhere, to ourselves, of complete, total financial freedom. But how many would be willing to say, well, I want to be wealthy. I am willing and ready, bring it on. I love the idea of being wealthy. The vibration of love is universal. When you can be in love with life and not limit yourself, then you don't limit anything in your existence. You allow it all to come in. And in many cases, there is such beauty you can do with, not in many, in all cases, when you allow for all the goodness and abundance and beauty and love in the world to come to you. There is nothing but beauty created. Nothing. When it is born out of love and it is nurtured in love, nothing but beauty can happen. It's impossible. Because the two opposite vibrations cannot exist at the same time. Now they can exist alternating, and that's how a lot of us do this. We get good about this stuff and feel good about it for a day or two, or we go to a workshop and we are high on the thoughts, and we're fine. How do we feel a week later? Are we back? Have we spiraled back to our limited thinking, to our concerns? Do we not practice on a daily basis that vibration of love? Question. And it's not to beat yourself up, it's to bring awareness to how you're being. So I invite you to first of all fall in love with the infinite possibilities and power that you have. Nurture it with love. And don't cut yourself off from wanting what you want. Free those desires into love. And when you do, your impact in your environment and in the world is magnificent. And I want to end this with this definition from Ernest Holmes, which I think is pretty profound. And this is a little long. Well, it's not too long. It's just perfect for this. And so, as we more and more create in our thoughts that which is perfect. That which is imperfect not only disappears, but it no longer exists. It is remembered no more. We must take our life, our love, our thoughts of happiness, our thought of friendship, and make it all become universal. You stand manifested, a friend to every living soul, in love with life, surrounded by a boundless, limitless, infinite activities whose sole impulse is the dynamic power of irresistible love, backed by infinite life and omnipresent power. Nothing can limit it. Thank you very much.